put it on half. Yeah. Okay, I think we are ready. We have 30 minutes. Last 5 minutes, I'll try to put questions from the stage, and I will introduce you. I will moderate this panel. Okay, we are ready. Hello, everybody. So the next panel is the first 100 days of PMO. In this context, PMO is Project Management Officer. Let me welcome Paul Coulthorpe from Switzerland. Paul is an experienced pharmaceutical leader with an R&D background and proven track record for developing innovative drug and digital products. He is also experienced in forming, leading, and motivating successful teams in challenging and change-oriented environments. Paul is currently Head of Program and Alliance Management in Vifor Pharma. Let me also welcome Klemen Spaninger, Senior Director, Head of Project Management Office and Global Program Lead from Fresenius Kabi, Switzerland. Klemen is a pharmaceutical professional with international experience with expertise in global project management, technical and biologics development. Currently heading PMO office of Fresenius Kabi, leading cross-functional global international teams and being responsible for development and implementation of biosimilar development strategies for project in development clinical and commercial stage. And also let me welcome Patrick Kamba, founder and chief executive of PK Pharma Consult, Belgium. Patrick is passionate by people development and training. He's been primarily active as a teacher, then progressively as project management trainer. Job coach and mentor, he likes to help people to be and to perform at their best. He was director of the project management at GSK Vaccines. He led project managers contributing to vaccines development. He started his own company last summer and is active now as a program management lead on different bacterial and viral vaccines within Johnson & Johnson. Patrick is an engineer. He has 2 masters from Leeds University in Belgium and has enriched his profile with an MBA from Liverpool University. Welcome, gentlemen. Let's start with first questions. What is the typical background and experience of a project management officer? Who wants to start, gentlemen?
Yeah, I can start if that's okay. Yeah, I think as we just heard, I think there are kind of different flavors of PMO. So, and that really kind of drives, I think, the background of the leader of that organization. But I think, you know, looking for commonalities, I'd say generally a background in project, you know, program portfolio management. You know, it's a line management position, so you're looking for people who have, you know, some experience in line management. I mean, I come from a pharma product development background, and you know, when I've set PMOs up in the past, you know, in appointing their leader, I've always looked for people who have a kind of strong grounding in at least 1 or 2 of the kind of disciplines that are going into those development programs. I think that's kind of super important. But you know, I guess over and above all of that stuff is, you know, is there kind of, you know, ability to be kind of well organized, structured, good negotiator, kind of confident dealing with senior management, etc. Yeah, so a combination of all those things, I would say.
Thank you. I have also a question for the audience. Do you use PM or PMO for the project management at your company? Just feel free to write it there and I'll summarize it at the end. Okay, Patrick, so what is typical background in your understanding?
So I would say at first, thank you for giving me this opportunity. And I fully agree with what Paul has just said. Indeed, you can come from a PM, PMO, portfolio, program manager role, because that would help, I would say, at least in terms of credibility, because if you have managed and successfully, hopefully, managed project in the past, that would help build your momentum, I would say, within the company. And more on that, and I fully agree, negotiation is a big part because some of you may know that the duration and the life of a PMO might be uncertain. It might be a few months to a few years, I would say ideally, when there is nothing big that is happening to this department. So negotiation, listening, influencing is also key as competencies.
What I've noticed that there are a lot of doctors, a lot of people with pharma background, chemistry, biology. Is it common? Is it a must-have? Klemen, can you please?
I mean, like it was already mentioned by Patrick and Paul, it gives you, it's not the must, but it gives you at least the advantage so that actually you understand the topic, you know where to challenge, you know where are the possible risks that are popping up and so forth. So if you have that, let's say, helicopter understanding of a specific area of a specific company where the PMO is based, of course, it's giving you very much that advantage. Yeah? So I experienced that a lot of times the heads of PMOs are actually former PMs from the same organization. And this is mainly coming from these reasons that you know the projects, you know the organization, you know who are the stakeholders, and then you can actually combine all that together. But I wouldn't say that it's a pure must. Yeah, I mean, I can tell you that my former direct manager, he was a financial guy running a tech ops organization, knowing probably more about production of biologics than a lot of people finishing the school. So I wouldn't say it's a must, but it's an advantage.
So usually you have to grow up in the company to get a lot of experience, and then you can be PMO in pharma industry. I've noticed also there are a lot of legal questions to be solved during the project, patents and so on. So it's really complex. Okay, thank you. Let's go to the next question. What is the role of PMO and what authority and resources they usually have? What other responsibilities PMOs are usually taking?
I will start by answering, if I may. I would say it's not so obvious to answer this question. It's about, you know, maturity, environment of where the PMO is really sitting. Because as I said, it might last a few months to several years. And behind all of this, it's the matter of how you would like to use your PMO. I have seen some companies where PMO is just an office of project managers, you know, where people are just coordinating, collecting data and making even slides, if I can say like this. On the opposite, you would have a PMO who will build a framework for portfolio management, program management, project management, support senior management about, I would say, a decision-making process, and etc. So everything is possible, and you have to be flexible when you talk about resources, authority on what can be done at PMO. It could be 3 people to 50 because they do also capacity management.
I would agree with that. I think as well, the other thing I would add to it is, you know, it's when a PMO is set up, then, you know, they become a little bit master of their own destiny, and it becomes a little bit of a mindset aspect as well. You know, you can, as head of the PMO, you can take a decision that, you know, you're purely there as some kind of enabling function for programs. And, you know, you're going to stay in the background and be seen and not heard. Or, you know, you can be bolder than that, and you can, you know, you can celebrate success. You can put newsletters out, you can put charters out to tell everybody what you're doing, and try and get a little bit of a kind of a seat at the top table. So I think, you know, it's a little bit within the control of the PMO what they want to do. So it's kind of, I'd say it's not just on, you know, the organization telling a PMO what it should be as well. There's some control there from whoever's.
Thank you. Have you any rules that you distinguish between project and program? I've seen some if it's larger than 2 years, then it's a program. If it's more than some budget, then it's a program. Do the companies have limits like this to distinguish what is a project, what is a program, what rules to be applied? Is it clear in the companies, in the pharma industry?
If I may, it really depends on the company to company and what it was introduced before. At least what we're always saying, that in pharma, if you have a development thing happening, it's either a project or a program. So it really depends on the organization, how they name it. So in certain organization, you're going to be hearing program, in certain projects, but bottom line, it's the same. And then the second part that we are also using is not a project per se, because as soon as you mention project, at least in organizations where I am, it's perceived as being something development. So we use then more the wording initiatives or a work stream or something where then you're trying to implement either certain processes or whatsoever. So at least there, what I'm used to is that you have a clear distinguishing what is really development as core. So as a pharmaceutical company, development of a pharma product, and what are then, of course, the projects per se when it comes to certain initiatives, portfolio decisions, and so forth.
And how do you call some HR or IT projects? Do you call them initiatives or?
It's either, at least in our organizations, it's our initiative or a work stream or something like that, but not per se as a program, because as I said, we're so used that the program means a core development thing that we don't use that as such.
Okay, thank you. How do you measure the success of PMO? Have you met the first 100 days term in your curriculum, in your work life? Has anybody asked you, what did you do for the last 100 days?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, yes, absolutely. And I think, in terms of kind of measures of success, I mean, the temptation is to jump straight into kind of archetypal metrics for project success that you're enabling. So I don't know, time to mobilization, cost and schedule variance, percentages of projects completed, benefits realization, all of those things that we kind of normally kind of jump to. I think what I found useful though is to take a little bit more of a kind of a holistic approach when you're looking at whether the PMO has been successful, because it's not just about enabling projects and programs as well. It's around, I think it's useful to always manage customer satisfaction, so identifying your stakeholders, canvassing them, finding out through questionnaires what your level of service has been like. The people that I've brought into PMOs as well, in whatever capacity as well, all the organizations I've worked at, AZ, Novartis, etc. I always think it's important that you're setting the individuals up for kind of success in their next career step as well. So, a measure of success for me for a PMO is how well the people who are within the PMO then progress to the next stage in their career as well. So I think it's important to have a blend of kind of program project metrics and also a more holistic approach.
Thank you, Paul. Klemen, how do you measure success of PMO?
Yeah, it's like Paul said, plus at least what we're trying to do is get some sort of pulse survey from the organization. Of course, it's very normal to ask what are they missing, how they're perceiving us, where are we actually helpful, where are we not helpful, and through that you then develop the roadmap. And you try to really address that survey response, because like Paul and Patrick mentioned before, it's the fate of you as well, whether the PMO will still be there in a year or 2 years, or whether the organization will still see the need for it. So you need to be a bit proactive and a bit bold and trying to understand how the other side of the organization is perceiving you as a department. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. Do you want to add something?
Yes, only a little bit more to what has been said already, because I'm fully aligned. I would say one way also to measure the success is the concept of we want more PMO. Because if people in the corridor start to run after you because they heard about what you did in other projects or people that you have supported, if they ask you to come to their meetings to give some, I don't know, training, some tips, or some more support, it is really showing that you are bringing value, because at the end, no matter you are strategic or more operational or whatever, if customer wants more, I mean, that's the basic sign that what you are delivering as PMO is useful.
Okay, thank you. What to do first when you are new PMO? How would you describe priorities for the first 100 days? Paul, let's start with you.
Yeah, really good question. Maybe it's a little bit sacrilegious, but the very first thing I would do is change the title. I come from a development background, and I've asked people in the past, what is it about a PMO? What should we do? And the first thing they say is, when they think of the term PMO, they think of, I don't know, a building site and temporary huts and this kind of stuff. So I'd maybe think of something more, a different title to a PMO, particularly in a development setting. But then I think it's just, it's going through the logical steps. It's doing, a situational analysis, trying to figure out, if it's a modification of some existing structure, what's working well, what's not working well. If it's a brand new thing, then going and speaking to stakeholders, finding out what kind of services the organization actually wants, and then using your best judgment to figure out also, what capabilities you want to actually build within your organization. And then, it's a case of kind of selling it, to the organization, because they've taken a decision to make an investment in a PMO, but you need to sell them back, your vision. And it's important as well to get that documented so that the organization understands exactly what it is that you're going to deliver. So producing a charter, getting that endorsed by senior management, some kind of executive sponsor is always very useful. And then when that's all in line, when you have everything, sorted out, then you need to get the word out there and get the capabilities kind of publicized within the organization that you're going to deliver. And, you can do that through websites, through, flyers, whatever. I think for me, the key thing is to use language that your customers understand. Yeah, that's fundamental to me. I mean, all the people within our community understand terms like, I don't know, benefits realization or, schedule variance, etc. But, our customers don't know what that means. So I think, when we publicize what the PMO can actually do, then I think it's important to use language that they understand.
Thank you. Do you want to work on it? Klemen, Patrick?
Sure. I mean, it's exactly what Paul said. And as well, I mean, the first thing is to really try to understand what was working well, what didn't function at all, and not only from the internal PMO view, but mainly through your stakeholders / customers, like Paul mentioned, because a lot of times, let's say if the PMO organization is a long-standing one, they think that, I don't know whether it was Paul or Patrick mentioned that they think that they are the kings and that's it. And they don't look from outside anymore. So a lot of times, at least what it's very positively perceived is when you're reaching to stakeholders, to the management, to the executive team, what do they need, where they need support and so forth, so that you don't take certain things just as they are. So I think, like Paul mentioned, really to slice it down and to create a roadmap, what you're going to do, and that you also clearly communicate that inside of your PMO team and especially outside of the organization, so that they see what will be maybe done in the first 100 days or first 6 months or whatever. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Patrick, do you want to add anything?
Yes, to everything that has been said. I would say also, as a new PMO, we should not forget to, I would say, read books, make a bit of research, just to understand and get some insight on what has been done in other PMO, I would say, in the world, because there is a high probability that what you are doing or what you are about to do has been done somewhere. So it's good also to get some kind of external eyes and external views, just to build on what you would like to have, and then indeed build your vision, share it with your key stakeholders, including sponsor. Because when you set up a PMO, at the end, it's just another project. And if you don't have the right sponsorship, I would say your PMO might be a failure and you might be terminated in a way.
Thank you. Do usually PMOs are an inside role? Because are they? Or external? Because I remember when I was trained as a consultant for engagement, the first thing we did was risk assessment, if we take the project or not. But it's valid for the external consultants, just to measure, okay, is it a good project? Are we able to deliver it? So this was the first thing we did. Okay, thank you. What are the most often mistakes by new PMO? Paul, you can start.
Okay. I guess a couple of things that I've seen is, first of all, just because an organization has decided to establish or modify a PMO, you shouldn't assume that everybody in that organization is bought into that. I think there's always, establishing a PMO is a change, yeah, and so we need to consider the change management element of creating a PMO, and making sure people appreciate that it is a process, that some people are going to be skeptical, that we need to work on those people, we need to get them aligned. So just because senior management is bought into it doesn't mean that everybody is. That was the first one, and then the other one is, I don't know how to phrase it. It's we shouldn't get ahead of existing systems. We shouldn't try and do things which existing systems within the organization can't support. And I'm talking there around finance systems, and I'm talking there around kind of IT systems as well. So I think we need a kind of a bit of a degree of realism as well, in terms of setting where we set the bar, that basically existing systems, or be they IT or finance, are able to support those games.
Okay, thank you. Klemen, Patrick, do you want to add?
Yeah,
some of your experience?
I fully agree with Paul's first statement. The main, I think, mistake is that when the decision is taken to introduce PMO, that it's not explained how, why, and what the exact role of the PMO organization or office will be in the overall organization. Yeah, because people experience PMO in different ways. Different organizations have PMO because of different reasons, and just introducing something because it sounds good, or because there is a thinking that a PMO organization is needed. I think that, like Paul said, if you don't bring the entire organization on board, you are set for failure.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. Some of your experience?
Yes. I would say that as a PMO is, I would say, a passionating role. The job would be to try to do everything from day one, without actually checking what is really expected by this role or department, and be really in alignment with what is expected from the top, and also from the customers. And of course, it would imply, I would say, to have some engagement session, explain what is expected, what you can provide, and also listen to the customers, because they might have some specific needs or requests. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a question from Jacqueline. At what time in the growth of a startup is the best time to implement a PMO?
I may answer. I would say at first, if all the projects are important and critical, there is a high probability you need a PMO to set up some portfolio management.
So I think we all agree. Okay, thank you. Also, another question to you, Patrick. Is there any specific reading you can recommend on the first days of the PMO?
Yes, yes, there is a white paper from, I think, Professor Hobbs, who was in Canada. I read it. He made a survey on several PMOs in the world. I can leave it here in the backstage or type it for all of us. He has made, a kind of a breakdown of activities based on survey on what kind of things PMO can do. And actually, when I set up one at GSK, I said, okay, we take the 70% activities as outcome of this survey, and we'll focus on this during the first year as a PMO. That's one way to do it.
Thank you. Maybe you can write the name of the paper in the stage chat.
I will.
So Jacqueline will find it. And I also asked if they use PM or PMO for the project manager. And Miriam replied, we used a hybrid PMs in the PMO for complicated, highly critical and/or multidisciplinary programs and projects, and also functional PMs in the department for less complicated project. So that are heavy in one discipline. The PMO PMs then mentor and coach the functional PMs. So this is the answer. And Mike Myers also added, for companies with a matured, established PMO, this whole discussion is great for people that are new stepping into the role or team. Thanks for sharing. So there are no new questions. I think the time has just run out and we're going to the next panel. Thank you, gentlemen, for your insight, for your experience. Thank you, Klemen, Patrick, and Paul. Hope to see you soon. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.